2011s. What was once a fairly specialized portion of the pistol market has now become mainstream. There are so many new 2011s coming out that we can't even cover them all, even here at the 1911 Syndicate. But today we are covering 3 new offerings in a good old-fashioned test drive. Gun number 1, at the entry-level position, we have the Jacob Grey TWC9 Kovert Edition. Gun number 2, at the mid-tier, we have the Watchtower Apache Kovert Edition. And gun number 3, at the full Mac Daddy Gucci tier, we have the Venom Custom 4.6 Quad Port. Talking portions of this video from the interior of a vehicle, since Utah has decided to give me a giant middle finger today. Today we are looking at 3 different 2011s, and we're really going to be putting them head to head. 3 different price points. A couple of disclaimers on this. 1, this really is not meant to be an in-depth review on each gun. Important to remember that. I have fairly low round counts on these guns, a few hundred rounds each, but this is obviously running a video on 3 guns, not meant to be like, I haven't run 1,000 rounds on each gun, so just know that in advance. All 3 of these guns came to me from Kovert Projects. The fellas over there, what a great day to send me some guns with some 1.8 pound triggers, huh? Because that is about the fastest I can move that today. So we'll see how she goes, you know what I mean? These are all 3 limited edition guns, 3 different price points. So we're going to be looking at Jacob Grey, we're going to be looking at the Watchtower Apache, we're going to be looking at the Venom Custom. As mentioned, these are not guns that you can really get anywhere else. These are all like basically special Kovert collab projects with each of those manufacturers. But more importantly than all of that, at some point today, I'm going to have to throw a belt on, because I'm going to have to go out into that wilderness and throw some rounds for the apocalypse. The belt that will be on will be it's going to be a Ciguera belt, maybe a full-on Emissary belt, because I might want a little bit more rigidity today, just with the apocalypse kicking off outside. It'll either be that or my EDC belt, which is actually on me now, which is the light inner Velcro belt. That is my preference. You will also see some in my vehicle. Let's see. Can you guys see this little strap thing here? Can you see that, Crispy? Can they see that? We got a videographer right next to me here, everyone. So this is, I keep this on my headrest. Behind me there is a magazine and an IFAK. That way if some shit pops off, I can totally grab that. So this is like, just realized organically, hey, during the ad read here, we got that here as well. So anyway, you guys can plug in the codes 1911 Syndicate. I'll save you guys 10% off of the Ciguera site there. All right, first up, let's talk about Jacob Grey. Okay, everyone, first up on the docket today is going to be the Jacob Grey. This is the Kovert TWC9. Now, we're going to go in ascending price point in today's video. The Kovert Edition TWC9 is $32.50. Now, we have, of course, done a full review on the Jacob Grey TWC9 and had a lot of good things to say about it. There were some things that I would have changed, mainly the grip and a few other things. Fortunately, a lot of that has been done now. So if we look at sort of what's new on this edition, first of all, the gun is blacked out. And I do think that this gun lends well to, see, like, this is great. I can see myself, so I can just, I can do my own B-roll here from the studio. So the gun blacked out, I do think is a much more attractive gun now that it's blacked out. This particular edition is ported. So you will notice the ports up here. We'll show you guys some B-roll. So you got two little V ports here on either side of the slide. We got a square trigger guard versus the old round one. I never realized how much I didn't really care for that round trigger guard on the TWC9 until I got the square one, and I'm like, yep, that just looks a lot better. An improved grip, and that was one of the things about the original TWC is the grip needed more grip, and it basically had these center panels were just smooth. Very strange, odd sort of design choice, but Kovert basically took the pattern, the little stippling pattern that's down here on the magwell, and they extended it through all of that center channel. Now, I will be the first to tell you that I still want more grip. Okay, I'll try to just kind of bring you guys some pros and cons as we talk about each. I still would be looking for more grip, even on a day like today when it's like, hey, it's cold and I'm just looking for more positive traction on a gun. I would like to see a little bit more grip. That's just me. Do I think that the gun's going to slip out of my hand as is? No, absolutely not. But if I was taking my pick, I'd like to see a little bit more grip. Pinned grip safety on this. That is a big win for me. Now, you can argue, hey, if this is meant to be a carry gun, that, hey, maybe you would want a functional grip safety. That's all very debatable. That's kind of up to you. I don't really have too much of an opinion on it one way or another. I don't really carry 2011s. I carry a single stack 1911 that's floating around here somewhere. But so generally speaking on 2011s, I would prefer to have a pinned grip safety, which this does. Fit and finish. So this feels very similar to a standard TWC. There's naturally a little bit of play in it. These aren't meant to be completely like, well, they're not hand-fit guns. It's just not. At this price point, that's not something that realistically you should be expecting. But the gun is reasonably tight, reasonably well fit for a gun at this price point. One of my criticisms on the original TWC was the thumb safety. I thought thumb safety was fairly weak and there was a bunch of play. So when you would put the thumb safety up, the ambidextrous side of the thumb safety had a bunch of play in it. This one, when it's up, I know you can't really see that, but you're just going to have to take my word for it. There's really they've improved it, and I don't know if that's because I criticize it or that's something that they just naturally did anyway. But it's like, hey, good on them. They have now improved the thumb safety, which to me was a big area for improvement. Trigger on this is going to come right in at just double check the chamber here, given that I'm not trying to do a fucking desk pop in the truck, you know what I mean? So natural, a little bit of take up there, and then right around a 3.5 pound trigger brake, reset. Actually a little sloppy on the reset there now that I noticed it, but the reset could be better. But the brake is pretty clean. You're not going to notice that when you're shooting it, but also keep in mind, it's cold. These guns have been out in gale force snow winds, so they are probably going to be riding the struggle bus a little bit today. In terms of any other features, trying to think if there's anything else that is particularly notable. Not particularly, as mentioned, price $32.50. And that would mean it's time to go shoot this bad boy. And right now it is cold as fuck. Okay, so here we are, Jacob Grey. With race guns, you really want to take them to conditions that are favorable. These don't like the cold. Fortunately, it's fall here in Utah. So what we're going to do, it's a little aggressive out here. We're going to move to our shooting bay. And it dies down pretty decent. So we're going to shoot from the confines of shelter. Not to mention that ice on the face at 50 miles an hour don't feel too good. So we're going to shoot from here. All right, everyone, let's get some rounds. Let's send it. So these guns don't have mag release springs that are at the weight that I typically use. So I've got to kind of use a shit grip, which naturally today my grip is going to be shit regardless. So don't judge too hard. Well, it survived the first mag of the torture test. So one of the things with the TWC, including the Kovert edition, is it's a very lightweight gun. So total, as if that would even make any sense. My brain's fogged. I was gonna say the total weight is 31 ounces. That would just be unloaded, no mag in the gun, 31 ounces as is. That's a very lightweight gun. I'm going from memory, I can't believe I'm forgetting this, but I think it's actually aluminum frame. I know the grip is, but I think it's actually aluminum frame as well. So that really lightweight nature, obviously it's meant to be a little bit more appealing for a carry gun if you were gonna carry this. But the gun, I've got this new target that's actually really coming in handy today. So the ports are doing some work. I'm always kind of a mixed bag on ported guns. They kind of wind up all over the place in terms of how effective and if they're really doing much and all that kind of stuff. One thing with ported guns is they are loud as fuck. And when you're in a slightly confined space like this, definitely a ported gun's gonna let you know that it's a ported gun. But the ports are doing work. In terms of reliability, gun has been completely reliable. Haven't had any malfunctions on the gun. Not exactly, I was gonna come out here and run a series of standardized drills with all these guns on a shot timer to try to really find the speed differences from each to each, but that's just not really in the cards here. Like I said, the guns run, the ports are working. It's like, hey, at that price point, there ain't a whole lot for me to really criticize there. Okay, everyone, up next is the Watchtower Apache. Now, this is, boy, to the boys at Kovert, I am sorry, your gun is not looking too hot right now. It is literally covered in snow. The Watchtower Apache, I've been a little fascinated in this particular one because I'm going to have to hurl a couple of insults before we get to the point of compliment. So come on this journey with me, folks. Watchtower Firearms acquired F1 Firearms, or yeah, to my understanding, basically Watchtower acquired F1 Firearms. Now, why anyone would want to acquire F1 Firearms is beyond me. I don't understand it unless they simply just had a bunch of good machines and they're like, cool, we're going to buy it for the machines because no one would want these guns. F1 Firearms made / kind of sort of still makes, because Watchtower still makes ARs. But I'm going to say F1 Firearms made the most hideous ARs you've ever seen in your entire life. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. Like, I can't overstate that. The Apache is their 2011. So this Kovert edition is a limited run, but the Apache is not new. The Apache has also had subsequent special editions. And I won't name those by names, even though it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. But, and I hesitate to say this because there's other creators involved there, and, you know, but those guns are pretty bad. I mean, aesthetically, those are pretty hideous firearms, and they may shoot lights out, but damn, they butt ass ugly. The best way I can describe the other Apaches is, do you remember in Dumb and Dumber where they're in Aspen and they're outside and they're freezing, and Lloyd and Harry are, you know, freezing by the fire, and, you know, Lloyd had the extra gloves the whole time, and the whole deal. And they get in a fight, and the briefcase opens, and they discover the pile of cash. And then basically you see what they do with the cash, right? Buying, you know, fur boots and getting the nicest suite at the plaza or whatever the thing was. That's kind of like the Watchtower Apache. Like, it's like Lloyd and Harry found a pile of cash, and that's what you decided to make. Like, oof, we could have used a little restraint here, fellas, is all that I'm saying. Now, that's the insult portion of the Apache. Now for the compliment portion. This particular Kovert edition, I actually find to be quite attractive. So, one, it's all blacked out now. And if you want an easy way to make a gun look pretty good, hey, ditch the bright colors and black the thing out. This looks pretty damn good. And that's why I've been interested in it, because I'm like, I don't like the Apache. I've felt them at SHOT Show, and it's like, I'm not trying to throw shade here, but it's like, that did not feel good. Like, that was not a $4,000+ gun. Like, sorry, not on your best day. But this looks good. Overall, we got a 5-inch gun. It's basically a commander slide. Okay, so if you look at the slide portion of it, basically you got a commander slide with a 3/4 inch comp at the end of it. Basically a little single, sort of single port comp there at the end of it. The barrel length is 4.6 inches. We've got an aluminum grip, and that's one of the things with the Apache. It's like, I think they call it like a Kevlar grip or something like that. I'm like, okay, interesting. But I mean, it really comes across as a polymer grip. And at that price point, that's a tough pill for me to swallow. We have an aluminum grip now. And I will tell you, I actually really like the grip. To me, this is kind of in that neutral sweet spot in terms of enough traction to give me some good stuff to work with. We've got a different texture on the front and back compared to the sides here. I like it. To me, it feels good. And this is, of course, not a carry gun, but if you were to carry this, to me, this is kind of in that Goldilocks zone of like, yeah, that's a good texture right there. It also has a significantly improved trigger shoe. That's one of the things I don't enjoy about the regular Apache. It's got some serrations on the front of the trigger there, in case your trigger finger tends to just slip off of the gun, which is not really a thing. But anyway, trigger shoe looks good. The gun is DLC, fit and finish, hallmark of any good 2011. So part of it is just that overall slide to frame fit, and just like, hey, does this thing feel decent at all? And it does. Right now she's a little cold, and she's a little, you know, I mean, I can just flick water off of the gun. But in terms of overall tightness, you go, God, I hope this gun runs today. I mean, there is some like muck and shit that has worked its way into this action. So it will also get a torture test today. But it does feel relatively decent. Fit and finish is to be fair, I think, decent at the price point, right? It's certainly not bad. I'd say it's pretty decent. Trigger, they're saying about 2.5 pounds, so a little bit of take up there. Yeah, I'd say 2.5 pounds is about right. Reset is nice. I would say the reset is nicer than the TWC that we just had, right? It's a pretty nice little trigger. I actually really can't find anything to criticize on the trigger. Any other things to highlight here? So, comes with a magwell, ambidextrous safety. This safety was basically dropped in for me as a lefty from the guys at Kovert. They're like, hey, we're just going to kind of makeshift throw in I think it's an Atlas safety, but it's not fit for the gun or anything. So I would say that this is a horrible safety, but again, this was basically them just doing me a favor, throwing something in. So this is not the safety that would actually come on the gun. Nice fat paddle here for the slide release. Price on this is $4,500, and that would mean we're going back out to the range. Okay, here we are on the range with the old Apache. These are also conditions where we realize the benefit of having an acro. If this mag gives me any issues at all, I have isolated it to this and one other mag that I have that are just super old beat up staccato mags. So don't judge the gun. If we have a hiccup, it is the mag. In terms of overall shooting experience, so it is totally different than the TWC Kovert gun. Totally different shooting experience. Towards the end of the video, we're gonna bring all the guns sort of head to head, and we're gonna discuss a little bit about the difference in ports and comps. It's a fun rabbit hole that I've been going down, having these three guns and really shooting them head to head in the same range session, and even going from one mag on a gun to a different gun and everything, you really start to detect the differences in ports and comps. So in terms of overall shooting experience, the Apache really is a pretty damn soft shooter. You really can't find much to criticize in terms of like recoil impulse or anything like that. In terms of reliability, so one of the things I do, I have a bag, literally a bag here of mags. I've just been running Blazer 115 and 124. But the mags that I use to test 2011s, they're staccato mags. There's Cabot, Checkmate, T-Sauce, and MBX. So there's 5 different mags. Now, I'm aware probably not, some of those are probably white labeled from Checkmate. I think Checkmate's a big mag manufacturer, but point being, you know, I'm using 5 different mags, you know, at least, oh, and Atlas mag, so that's a 6th. And I like doing that because you really kind of figure out, hey, do the guns struggle on any of the mags, or is there any pickiness or anything? And this gun's pretty much eating everything. In terms of a shooter, yeah, look, this bad boy is a shooter. It's been good. I've had no reliability issues. Is there anything that I could really pinpoint that I would say could be better? You know, there's not really a lot coming to mind, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I have liked this gun way more than I thought. This is not a gun that I had high expectations for, and it's been pretty damn solid. Now, of course, the thing that you're really going to have to debate is at this price point, which is $4,500. Do you get this over a Staccato? And I can't really answer that for you because my opinion, I know, is frustrating when people ask me. They're like, hey, Jake, I'm thinking about getting a Fowler or a Hayes, you know, or an Atlas or a Nighthawk. Typically, the answer you're going to get from me is like, hey, look, if 2 things are fundamentally good, if they're both reliable and they're about at the same price point, and as long as there's not some glaringly obvious reason why you would get one over the other, at that point, these things are pretty much apples to apples, in which case, get whatever you want. Maybe it's get whatever one you can find sooner, or whichever one's a slightly better price, or whichever one you think has a cooler slide cut, or whatever it is. So the debate you're going to have with yourself on this gun is, do you get this or do you get an XC? Mag release springs, just the plague of my left-handed shooting life. If this was my gun, I'd swap the spring, but just fuck you. But you know what? Fuck you, mag. I'm talking to Crispy over here. Fuck that mag. And this stupid ass spring, weak spring. You right-handed people think you're so much better than my people, putting these weak springs in these guns, and you just laugh at people like me. So do you get this or do you get an XC? I don't know. You're going to have to answer that question for yourself. This has a lot of good things going for it. We'll sort of sum it up at the end of the video. But in terms of, is it a good shooter? Does it shoot nice, soft? Yeah, it does. To the folks at Big Tex that I hope watches this video, since they sponsor our channel, I don't imagine you have conditions like this. I imagine if Ike sees this, who was in our Cheap Gun Challenge, we're at the same spot we filmed the Cheap Gun Challenge, only the apocalypse is here. Except for him, he's having a good old time. But if you guys need some really good gear, you can go over to Big Tex Ordnance. They've got you know, lights, optics, all kinds of AR accessories, pretty much anything that you would be looking for, they're going to have. I would recommend you start there. The code that you guys can use to save 10% off would be 1911SYN. They're going to ship your order the same day, as long as it's placed before 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. If they say it's in stock, it's in stock. It comes with candy. It comes with a Constitution. I mean, this is a good deal here, guys. This is a very, very good deal. They're a patriotic company. They encourage all their employees to shoot. Actually, I think they kind of sort of mandate, like, yeah, actually have to take a couple training courses a year. So scope that out. And if you guys want to jump on our Patreon, that would be lovely. The 1911 Syndicate is a real estate company, but real estate is absolute shit right now. So the Patreon has definitely made a bigger difference than historically it has for us. So we very much appreciate that. And if you need real estate, help yourself. We'd love to help you. All right, let's jump into this Venom Custom. Well, first of all, I guess let's do this as we start talking about the Venom. So yeah, well, I was going to show you the case. Okay, it's kind of a cool little slick little case here. It's got Venom Custom on it. And it's like, it's a cool case. Comes in a hard case, which I like. And it should, because they ain't giving these bad boys away. First off, this is a gun, as with the others, not really made for conditions like this. So we'll see how it does today. Hopefully okay, but it's entirely possible that these guns may be freezing up out here, which is what happened with my Infinity on the final night that we filmed it. Now, first of all, let's talk about Venom. Who is Venom? So Venom is a one-man custom shop. The man's name is Don. I hope Don doesn't mind me saying his name, but basically, I don't know Don's last name. I don't know your social security number. I don't know your credit card, so everyone relax. Don is the guy that builds these. He only makes 4 guns a month. So this is a very boutique sort of I'm going to say custom shop. Now, these aren't custom in the sense of like you're picking everything on it. They pretty much come as is, but the gun is getting the full custom treatment in terms of fit, finish, all that kind of good fun stuff. So when you grab one of these, you feel like you just grabbed a souped up Atlas. And part of the reason for that is you did. That is basically what you're looking at here. These guns are built on Atlas components. So they are built on Atlas frames, slides, grips, and most of the major parts, safeties and things like that, triggers, yada, 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 are Atlas components. Not sure about the barrels. Don't quote me on that. Now, the funny thing about this gun is I've actually had this gun, and we were supposed to do a dedicated video on this gun a few months ago at this point. What happened was Kovert sent me the gun, and I was like, man, this is a hell of a gun. And I took it to the range and I shot it for the first time, and I felt like kind of a dick because, these are like $7,500, but I messaged Kovert after, and I was like, I gotta tell you, I think that this thing could use it needs a tad bit of extra performance on speed and soft shooting nature to get to that $7,500 price point. Like, it does everything. I just wanted a little bit more performance out of the bad boy. And they were like, okay, cool. Fair enough. Hey, we appreciate the feedback. They took it back. They basically redesigned the ports. It came back to me, and now it is on the channel, which probably means that it doesn't totally suck. So in terms of overall design and the looks of this bad boy, so I often say that 2011s are like the supercar of the gun world, certainly the pistol world. And in terms of supercar vibes, that is one of the better looking 2011s that I've ever seen. So I'm just going to tell you, like, that gun aesthetically really does it for me. I think it is just straight supercar vibes. Then you look at it from the top down, and we'll show you guys some B-roll and stuff, but it's like, oh my God, that is a very attractive firearm. I very, very like it. Very, very like it. We're just leaving words out of my sentences here. So fit and finish. Look, it's one of the best fit and finish guns that I've ever felt. Like, it is utterly spectacular. It's like that first thing you get in 2011, you kind of take in the looks, you go, okay, well, I like that, or I don't like that. And next thing you do is, right, you always check the chamber. Part of checking the chamber is you got to rack the slide. And you rack the slide on this, then you're like, dear Lord, like, that is utter glass. That is just like, when people talk about the ball bearings thing, whew, that is a ball bearings sort of 2011 right there. So everything is really perfectly fit on this. There is not an ounce of wobble anywhere in the slide to frame. You look at the back of the grip safety, and again, we'll show you guys some B-roll in case our studio here isn't wowing you. But it's a non-functional grip safety, right? But it is perfectly blended. It's just perfectly blended. There's no gaps, there's no nothing. There's no edge anywhere. It's just an absolute perfect seam. Thumb safety. That's what a thumb safety should feel and sound like. It's positive. I am up, I am down. I can feel that I am up and down. There's no mush, there's no nothing. It's just very, very nicely done. The crown on the barrel, little, obviously tough to see in here, but it's like, whatever. It's like a really immaculate job on the crown of the barrel. The trigger. So I don't know exactly where it is, but I can tell you it's less than 2 pounds. I can tell you that much right now. So reset is just money. It's just fantastic. I guess that trigger's probably like 1.8 pounds, something like that. Any other relevant features? So we've obviously got this Atlas grip. They kind of built it out with these panels on both sides. I'm not really a guy that embraces that too much. It's just not really my jam. It doesn't like throw me off or anything, but basically this side's kind of building into your palm, and then this side basically is like kind of right where my fingers stop. They kind of butt up against that, and then you come in and you fill it in there. So I'm cool with that. This is a 4.6 inch gun, ported gun, and you can see how they basically did. So when it started, it was just the 2 ports up top, and then my feedback on, in terms of like, hey, I think you could get a little bit more performance out of this. Basically, they added in the 2 V ports that are off to either side here. So basically, you've got, 4 ports, but they're 4 different style of ports. This is an all steel gun. So this bad boy's coming in at 48 ounces. It is not lightweight. And on a gun that I do not intend to carry, I'm all about it. I love an all steel gun. So a ported 48 ounce gun, it should shoot pretty nice. Like I said, they're not giving these away, $7,500. And the real question as we head to the range is, can it warrant that price? When you inherit a fucking 20-year-old, you're not a mom anymore. All right, here we are on the range with the Venom. One thing with the mag well on this, you're gonna have to run 20 round mags. May or may not be a big deal to you, but just as an FYI. Okay, let's see how the old girl does. Let me use a pussified grip out here. Yes. So everyone, this is also a safety that is set up for a right-handed shooter, so I have to consciously ride this side of it, or under recoil with this fat paddle, I will engage the safety up. So that's what happened there. I was like, you know, what is happening here? It's also the reality of, like, I can't really feel my hands, so. So even with no, like, dexterity or anything, you can run the piss out of this gun. And I get it. In the hands of a faster shooter, this gun would really come alive. And that is the truth if you want to know it. Like, in the hands of a truly, like, amazing shooter, this gun would be a joy to watch someone burn it down with this gun. I bet it would be, like, just a show. Like, I would love it. As a gun nerd, I would love to see, like, a world-class shooter get a hold of this thing and just go to town on it. So this gun is a very lightly sprung. I've always kind of wondered, like, man, being that lightly sprung, you know, occasionally on that first round, stripping that first round from a mag, if the mag spring is pretty tight. This is an MBX mag. Very rarely, but occasionally you could have that happen, in which case you have to just give it a little bump and she'll go into battery. But in terms of, are the ports doing their job? Yes. So the gun just returns to zero incredibly fast. It is an incredibly fast gun to return to zero. The dot in the window, or the dot, doesn't leave the window. And again, I'm using a shit grip, and it's like I can still track that dot through the entire recoil process. So it's a pretty outstanding gun. The ports, definitely the redesign of the ports from Don and the Venom. Well, I guess it's just Don. I was gonna say the Venom fellas, but it's really just the Venom fella. The redesigned ports are definitely doing work. I like that they added in those V ports on top, in addition to the ones up on the top. They have now created a gun that is both soft shooting and fast shooting, and that is the deal with ports. And we'll get into that conversation a little bit later. But that is one of the deal with ports is, like, it's not always soft. Sometimes it's more about just being fast. So in terms of reliability, gun's been completely reliable. Yeah, it had that little issue stripping that mag off that MBX mag, or stripping that round off that MBX mag. I don't really place a whole lot of faith in that. Man, I'm really battling this safety today because I can't feel where my hand is. But the gun has run. I did not clean it prior to today. I did clean it last night just because I, didn't want to sabotage it for today. It just wants to go fast. It feels like an Atlas souped up. I mean, it's really very much what it feels like. Is there much that I can find to criticize on this? Not really. I would be struggling to find much. Yeah, there's little things I would tweak just based on being a lefty, but that's not a gun issue. That's a gun shooter compatibility situation. There ain't much that I can find to criticize here. Is it worth $7,500? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, so let's go head to head a little bit. So let's start with the two ported guns, the Jacob Grey and the Venom. So these are going to be very similar shooting experiences, but you will be able to detect the difference if you were to shoot them. Part of that is coming down to weight. The Jacob Grey, as mentioned, 31 ounces, right? It is a Commander 4¼ inch barrel. The Venom is 48 ounces at 4.6 ounces. I would say this, if you're like, man, I love the idea of that Venom, but I've got a Jacob Grey budget, probably do the Jacob Grey. So in terms of how they really shoot head to head, because again, two ported guns, you're gonna feel the similarities. So there's a certain recoil impulse that you're getting there. You swap over to the Venom. So immediately in the first round, you go, yep, that is a more refined experience of what I just had. You go, hey, that feels similar-ish. It feels like the same style of gun of what I just shot. It just feels way better. Now, you're gonna have to keep in mind, this is double the price tag. Literally over double the price tag. I mean, one's $3,250, one's $7,500, so more than double price tag on this. Does that mean you are getting twice the performance? No, and you need to understand that. Just because something's twice as much doesn't mean you're gonna be twice as good of a shooter, just because you have the twice as expensive gun. But there's more at play there than just like, hey, is it twice as shootable? Because at that point, you're getting into one, rarity. You could argue that because there's only 4 made a month versus the Jacob Greys that are, you know, fairly mass produced, I'll call it. They're both good. This just does everything that Jacob Grey does a lot better for more than double the money. Okay, the next discussion we're going to have is comps versus ports. This has been a fun rabbit hole that I've been going down, having all three of these guns back to back. So comps and ports, it's the same end goal, right? Which is to shoot fast, right? It's a performance enhancing tool on your gun to make you shoot faster. But they go about it in a totally, totally different way. And we'll see. I don't know if you'll be able to detect any of it on camera, but we'll give it a go. So the comp shoots soft. Right? If you said, hey, I want to shoot fast, but I want it to be sort of a soft, easy shooting experience. A comp, I would say generally speaking, I just spit there, by the way, in case anyone wants to call me out in the comments. Yeah, I just spit, as I just said, a comp, and shit just flew out of my mouth. So a comp, I would tell you generally, is probably going to be a softer shooting experience. A couple things to keep in mind. One, there's less reciprocating mass, right? Because you obviously look and you've got a command or slide here, so you've only got 4¼ inches that is reciprocating. The other 3/4 of an inch, the comp at the end, is not reciprocating. So you do have less reciprocating mass. You're also keeping more weight at the muzzle end of the gun. In theory, also helping to keep the muzzle a little bit flatter due to the added weight. You're going to get less concussion from this. That is something that I would keep in mind, especially if you're someone who's like, hey, I train indoors, like I run indoor competitions and things all the time. Cool. Both of these are going to be louder than I'll call it an unassisted gun, right? No comp, no ports. But the comp is going to be less concussive than the ports will be. Keep that in mind based on your sort of shooting circumstances. Another advantage to comps would be that there is no reduction in velocity, right? Because the bullet has left the barrel by the time it is hitting the aid, right, of keeping the gun soft versus ports, which we'll discuss in just a second. Also keep in mind, holster compatibility can get a little tricky. Now, I will tell you, one, there was no chance in hell I was going to run a holster today, but this does actually fit in a standard 1911 holster for me. So it just a baseline, and I don't, truthfully, it was made so long ago, I don't remember if it was 1911 or a 2011 holster. It's not indicated on the holster, but this fit no problem, which is nice, okay? But just keep in mind, in regards to comps, you could run into some issues with holsters. So, I mean, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. You probably can. It's more of a thing, it's like you've got to feel it to know what I'm talking about. But it's like, it's a very soft and fast shooting experience. Now, if we swap over to ports, totally different world. Same intention to go fast. Oh, ha, yeah. So ports go about it in a totally different way. Comp, think soft, elegant, fast. Jesus Christ. Ports, kind of violent and fast. It's a different approach. It is an emphasis, I would say, just based on my experience with it, of returning to zero as fast as possible. Achieving speed via getting your muzzle back down as fast as humanly possible. And to that end goal, God, man, I am just melting down over here, everyone. Whew, boy, yeah. Don't judge me too harshly on today's shooting performance. To that end goal, it works great. So a couple of the advantages and disadvantages. One, you're not changing the muzzle profile of the gun. So you're just taking a base gun versus a comp. Obviously, you're changing the profile of a gun. So whereas this might fit a standard 2011 holster, comp oftentimes will not. Now, if you, hang on. Okay, also ports, not great if you're chasing velocity, right? So if you're a velocity guy and everything comes down to that, you're chasing velocity. The ports are not gonna be good because obviously the round is still inside of the barrel and speeding up as it hits the ports, and then it begins to decelerate as the ports do what they are intended to do. So again, on a carry gun, ports can become a very real issue and a point of potential concern for you. If you're like, hey, I have this like sort of like really fast carry gun, but I'm bleeding off velocity. I don't know. You know, like this is a very real debate that we can begin to have now. Ports, a couple of the other things, they are going to be more concussive. So if you're, again, an indoor range warrior, run a lot of competitions, whatever, this is going to be pretty unpleasant indoors, definitely for your neighbors in the opposing bays near you. Be aware of that. You're also going to catch a little bit more fouling, which is natural because, hey, these ports are happening inside the barrel. So you are going to get some natural fouling that will happen. So you're probably just going to need to maintain your gun a little bit better. If you're someone that's like, I like to never clean my guns, ports are probably not really going to be the route for you. But again, we keep in mind, comps, soft and fast. Great. There was like 2 hits in that mag. I was just trying to get my finger moving. Ports, opposite. Not as much soft, more about just raw, sheer speed in an aggressive manner. At the end of the day, folks, there's no free lunch. You want a maximum like fast shooting gun? Cool. There's going to be some trade-offs. Okay, everyone. So final thoughts on these bad boys. So would I recommend them and who are they for? Let's go one by one. Jacob Grey. Best way you can think about this is basically an upgraded entry-level gun. A $3,200 price tag is basically still kind of an entry point for 2011s. It's not ultra budget like TSOS sub 1,000, but if we're looking sort of in the mainstream staccato-ish category of guns, 3,200 is still reasonably entry level for a ported gun with an aluminum grip and everything. You're basically getting an upgraded entry level gun. Can I give the seal of approval just based on my limited time with it? Yeah, it's good. If you were to come to me and say, Jake, let's not play the this or that game, but if you were to say, hey, I'm thinking about getting this TWC black Kovert gun, you think it's a solid buy? I'd say, yeah. I think you're safe. I think you can pick that up. Up next, the Watchtower Apache Kovert Edition. Think of this as staccato XC money with a lot of other added benefits and features, because that's really what you're getting, right? You're paying the same, in essence, the same price as Staccato XC, but for a better grip, I would argue an overall better looking gun. And probably, you know, it's like, hey, look, that's probably your most debatable of the 3. This one's probably the one where you're like, okay, sit down and think about it. I actually have no issue with this gun. I've actually been quite happy with it, much to my surprise, if I'm being honest with you. I didn't have high hopes for this, and she's actually done pretty damn good. So it's like, if you came to me and you said, hey, I'm thinking about buying this, I'm not going to play the XC game with you, because it's like, hey, if 2 things are fundamentally good, then at that point buy whatever you think is cool, or you can get faster or whatever you think. But it's like, hey, if you were to say, I'm thinking about buying this, can you get on board with it? Yeah, I'm cool with it. I don't have any issue with it. Go for it. Then the Venom. Who's the Venom for? Can we get on board? Yeah, I can definitely get on board with this. Of course, the biggest thing to consider is, hey, once you start playing in $7,500 price point, now you're starting to talk about, I don't really think you can get an Infinity these days for $7,500. I think you're probably $8,000 to $9,000 is kind of most of what they're putting out these days. So you're getting towards that price point. But if you said, hey, I'm thinking about getting one, should I go for it? Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Again, given that only like 4 of these things are being made a month, this kind of falls into that, like you may even get it while you can. That might be one of those where I don't know what the current lead time is on these. It's entirely possible that lead time might escalate a little bit. So this might be a like, hey, you might want to jump in sooner than later kind of thing. And you never even know. Like maybe Dawn one day is like a legendary builder where you're like, oh man, you got one of the early Venom guns. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. There is a pretty cool special nature about this gun where you go, man, this gun feels good. It shoots nice. Like, I just want one that's set up for a lefty. But aside from that, you're like, yeah, this thing is pretty badass, man. So, guys, that'll pretty much do it for today. Apologies for the shit circumstances here that we've had to film on. Trust me, you did not want me sitting outside trying to do this right now. As shitty as this is and looks, this was the best of the bad options today. So anyway, comment, let us know any questions you got. We'll try to jump in there. We'll talk to you guys next time.